Hey there. My name is Kurt Busch, and I am from the Brimstone Coaching Group. I want to ask you today, are you feeling overwhelmed or are you feeling anxious? If so, we at Brimstone Coaching Group have something just for you. Our free guide called How to Manage Your Anxiety is filled with tips that you can take action on today that will help you manage anxiety and transform your life. You don't have to let stress control you any longer. I want to invite you to visit brimstonecoachinggroup.com right now to download your free copy of that guide. And I want to invite you to take that first step towards a calmer, more fulfilled you right now, today. Once again, that guide can be found at brimstonecoachinggroup.com.
Hey friends, Chris Godfredson with the Brimstone Coaching Group, and I want to welcome you to a holiday anxiety episode of the Brimstone Coaching Podcast.
Whoa, that sounds fun.
It does, doesn't it? It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to dive into all of this and to see what we say. Yes, I'm here with my friend and partner today, Kurt Busch. Good to see you, Kurt. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you too.
Yeah. So we've been through a season in our lives where we've talked about anxiety and showing up in the world as it relates to and being like emotionally mature and self-defined and things like that through an election cycle. And
Yeah.
that was fun.
Continues to be fun.
It continues to be fun, right? We get to understand ourselves and the part that we play in all of life. And today, I think we just want to dial in on the fact that the holidays are upon us. And so we've celebrated Thanksgiving. Y'all had a chance, I hope, to spend some time with some family and friends, and that may have evoked some things in you. And with some of those people, you may get another opportunity here in the next couple of weeks to celebrate Christmas or
Yes.
Hanukkah or whatever other holidays you happen to celebrate around this time of year. And inevitably, I think what's true is families, friends, large groups of people can bring out the best in us, and they can bring out the worst in us, right? So sometimes things happen when things aren't the way they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking about how excited I am. So our kids will probably all be around. So we have 4 children, 5 with a son-in-law, 6 with a fiance, and we have 3 grandchildren, and they will all be around.
Yeah.
And typically what's true is over Christmas, they're around for a little bit of an extended period of time. And what that means is we've gotten used to just being the 2 of us in our home now. And so things are just a little different when you infuse all of the people back into the system.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And there inevitably every change changes everything, they say. And so for a short season of time, which might be several days, like there are humans in our space. And while, when we think about anxiety, we talk about acute anxiety being like, oh, here's an intense emotional response to like an immediate threat.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, unless one of the kids is outside and they run into the street, that would be an acute event.
Yeah.
But the reality of chronic anxiety being present in our lives, where we just have this low hum when things aren't exactly the way we want them to be or would intend them to be. So then things get tripped up. And like, here's one example I would use. I'm doing all the talking at the beginning of this episode. You're welcome.
Just roll, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, so we have a couple of kids who are in college still. And what's true about that is they are beginning to see that when I'm in the kitchen at the sink doing dishes, they grab a towel and they begin to help. But there's a time when that wasn't true. Like when
Yeah.
all of our kids were home, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so then things inevitably stir, right? Or we're sitting around the table, we're having the big Christmas meal, and somebody says something that's out of left field.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm trying to get us into the idea that like anxiety is present and now
Yeah.
what, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we get to understand ourselves and deal with that low hum that goes off. I need to
Yeah.
stop talking and let you ask a question or two.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I maybe just want to say, I mean, thanks for putting it out there. And
Mhm.
you just named something that probably most of our listeners are going to feel very shortly, or maybe have felt at Thanksgiving and maybe
Yeah.
aren't going to feel. I didn't feel any of this at Thanksgiving. We weren't with family on Thanksgiving, but
Mm.
we will. We'll get to practice this at
Yeah.
Christmas. You talked about how you and your wife are empty nesters. You don't have kids at home,
Yep.
and that is different. And I'm just maybe sitting here present too, that every one of those other humans in your house are saying the same thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't live here, or I don't live here primarily,
Yeah.
or I do, or your college kids, like this is home, but it's different. There's all these other
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
Every
The
human is saying,
perception, yeah, the perception is, well, I don't live here every day now, so I'm a guest. And I'm like,
yeah,
false. You're a member of this family. And that means that there are responsibilities that we share.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
and then
oftentimes they're not communicated. It's
yes,
expected. I'm
yes,
not clear. I don't say when you walk in the door after being gone for 2 or 3 months, hi, welcome home. And these are all the things you get to participate in.
yeah,
Wouldn't that be
yeah,
helpful if I would be
that.
that clear instead of have my own expectations?
Well, so then the question is what keep and I know part of this is hyperbole, right? I
Yeah.
think I think we're exaggerating some of this for effect, but
Yeah.
what keeps you from being that clear?
Hmm. Not sure that I've ever thought about it until I just said it right now.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah,
terms of why don't I communicate that? I don't know. I don't know that there's a reason except this one. I don't feel like I should have to.
mm,
You should know.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
just said a mouthful.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, you feel like you shouldn't have to, right?
Yeah.
But then there's, what happens to your unnamed expectations? What happens to what do they turn into?
Well, yeah, frustrations. I get
Yeah,
exhausted when people aren't
yeah,
doing what I think that they should do. And so, yeah, why wouldn't I bring that up or have that conversation? Just say, hey, you know what? We're all here and we're going to all be here together for several days. And maybe, just maybe, we can all pitch in.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is, yeah, go ahead.
What's the impact of some of this, right? So, given your family all in the same space, like what's the impact of you showing up like this with these sort of unnamed expectations?
Well, I'm easily frustrated when somebody doesn't do what I think that they should do. And what that then means is then my feelings begin to control me.
Mm,
And as my feelings begin to take over rather than my best thinking,
yeah,
then um, I I lash out. I'll do two things.
yeah.
Um, I would say I would move toward hard, or I move away.
Mm,
And so if I move toward hard, I'm going to not invite you to partner with me in getting things picked up or do the dishes. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be
yeah.
upset about it. That's the first thing. And then the moving away, I'll just withdraw.
Mm,
I
yeah.
get quiet. and I don't talk, I'm not present. And the impact of those things is like I miss out on being with my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really, I mean, thanks for saying that. I mean, it's not really good that you miss out on being with your family, but I think the awareness of it, that's just really good. Thanks for giving that as an example.
Sure. Yeah. And I think about like being in the work setting when I think about being at my job. And if I do, I mean, I'll do, because whatever I do with my nuclear family, I'm going to
Yeah.
do in the other spaces. Where
Yeah.
else does this show up in your life? If
Yep.
I'm not willing to be clear and share my expectations, there's a yeah, there's a reason, right? And so
Yeah.
I get to understand that, uh, and this is what anxiety can do to us, right? When we get stirred, then we lose our ability to think, and it robs us of all kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because if anxiety is just an emotional response to a threat, real or perceived,
Hmm.
these family gatherings like this are just rife with opportunities for these
Yes, they
things,
are.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
What do you want to say about any of these things?
yeah, what do I want to say, Chris?
I don't
That's a
know.
that's a great question. Yeah, I think when I frame these family gatherings, these times where we get together with family of origin or maybe just other people that are really close in our lives, when I frame it with what is the threat, when I use the question, what is the threat that I'm going to be responding to? Um, I think often for me, it's the threat of, being misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
the threat of losing identity or losing self, uh,
Hmm.
mostly because I'm really good at giving up self. I'm r really good at not defining myself, especially in settings like this.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's the threat that I feel most.
Yep.
You said it, like we are coming out of a political season. Th There are ample opportunities that those things still crop up even in these holiday settings.
Oh yeah.
I imagine every one of us is going to be in a space where a political comment is made, or either a celebratory comment or a lament comment that triggers us in one
Hmm.
way, shape, or form. So I think that's maybe where I find the most fruit in considering is where and how do I want to keep from losing myself?
Mm, yeah. And so what steps will you take? What what have you found helpful in not losing yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is pretty tangible and pretty practical. Maybe more tangible than we usually get, but I hope it's okay that I go really practical
Yeah,
here.
be great.
So I haven't yet fully done this yet for Christmas. But what I typically do for these events, for any event where I know my anxiety is going to stir up, I take a little bit of time and I ask myself the question, when I get to the other side, right? If I could put myself on the other side of the family gathering or whatever the situation is, how will I know if I've showed up and handled myself the way I want to? Like what does success look like?
Yeah.
Then what happens is if I can name, sometimes I'll even write it down. And if I can name, here's how I know that I will have not lost myself, or here's how I know that I've done everything I can to make this as less anxious as possible. Then I can start working backwards, right? If I
Hmm.
know what good looks like, now I can start to say, okay, here are the conversations I will engage in. Here are the conversations I won't engage in. Here are the conversations that I can say, nope, I'm not going to do that. But that's also not me giving up self, right? That's an actual defining moment of saying I'm going to follow these conversations. I'm going to stay out of these conversations. Um, yeah, I think that the working backwards for me helps me go in saying, okay, here's how I know how I want to be to get to the goal of success.
Yeah. Hmm. That's really helpful.
Yeah, most times. Most times it is. I mean, I mean, let's be clear. We always say on this podcast, we don't have this figured out. That is not a silver bullet, but it is a helpful exercise for me that
Yeah.
helps me at least stay on track
Yeah.
instead of just kind of, winging it every moment,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, we have talked about this, and I mean, you do have some agency here, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you do have responsibility, and so I think it's pretty powerful to say, how will I, to look out there. I intend, right, to experience success, and
Yeah.
what will be necessary for me to do that. I think it's super helpful, and then you can walk back and assess. I mean, for me, if I think about that, like the tell on the other side is, where do I have regret or
Yeah.
remorse? Where do I feel exhausted because of my brokenness
Yeah.
in this stuff?
Yeah.
Because I didn't behave the way I want to? Or do I feel pretty good about, I mean, here's the thing I'm going to say, like, I'm going to be exhausted on the other side of the
Yeah.
holidays because there's just that much more activity happening. I
Yeah.
probably stay up later and there's never a quiet time. It's just constant uh,
Yeah.
motion. And that's not bad. It's just different,
Yeah.
right? But I
Yeah.
will know if I'm feeling exhausted in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I want to ask you the same question, but before I ask you the same question, let's take a little break, and then we'll come back and let you say a little more about that.
Sounds good. Do you sometimes feel like you're juggling too many things in your life? Things like your career, family, friendships, finances, or maybe even the anxious situation you woke up thinking about this morning? Hi, I'm Chris Godfredson with the Brimstone Coaching Group, and we understand how overwhelming these feelings can be. And we believe that the first step toward your personal transformation is taking time to reflect on what's really going on. That's why we offer you a free personal assessment to help you evaluate these key areas of your life. Areas like your work, relationships, and what may be causing you anxiety and holding you back. Our easy-to-use assessment is designed to help you reflect on those challenges and to guide you towards a life of contentment, fulfillment, and wholeness. Download your free personal assessment today at brimstonecoachinggroup.com to start your journey toward reflection and transformation. Again, visit brimstonecoachinggroup.com to request your copy today.
Well, welcome back again to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. Kurt Busch here with friend and co-founder Chris Godfredson. Chris, what do you want to say? How do you go into these settings? What's helpful for you in 2024 here coming into Christmas? What's helpful for you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Thanks for asking it. And I think for me is to just be on alert,
Mm,
right? To know uh, that things are going to be ratcheted up, that um, there will be more people around, and when I am prepared in advance, then then I think I use the word, like, you have some agency, and so will
yeah,
I, right?
yeah,
And so I can ask the questions. I can ask myself any number of questions in preparation.
yeah,
Like, can I paint a picture to say this is how I hope to show up in all of the frenzy,
yeah,
both both with my nuclear family there, but also, let's say, my folks show up, or my mother-in-law is around. How am I going to be then? How do I want to be? And what are the steps that I need to take to be that, right? To not be reactive, to be thoughtful and measured. There will be uh, perceived threats along the way. It might
yeah,
be conversations that are happening. It might be somebody else's reaction in the midst of these conversations. We
Yeah.
don't all see all the things the same way in as it relates to that. As much as we're all pretty similar, we also can see the world differently.
Yeah.
And I celebrate that. And like this is where things that we talk about, like having a preferred promise for the holidays, seems like a good idea. So
Yeah.
that when the thing in me is poked and prodded or stirred, and there is an intense emotional response to a threat, that I do get to behave the way I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Let me ask you a question about that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that this is going to be my experience. I don't think it's probably going to be your experience, but there's probably somebody listening that has an Uncle Larry that's going to say something really out of pocket, as the kids would say. Uh,
Yeah, I was gonna
pr
say, help me
pretty
out here.
proud, pretty
Yeah.
proud of that. Out of pocket is like inappropriate, I think.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
great.
If I, man, if
I'm
that's wrong,
impressed.
leave a comment below. Uh,
Yeah, right.
and then share it on social media of how embarrassing Brimstone is.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, some listeners are going to have that uncle that says things that are way out of left field
Yeah.
and going to stir things up. Does all of this prep mean that that's not going to stir us up?
No, nope,
No.
nope. No, but what it might mean is I don't roll my eyes, or
Yeah.
I don't just immediately lash out. It might mean it might mean that I can just set in there and go,
Yeah.
take a deep breath without anybody really knowing that I did it,
Yeah.
and then either change the subject or be curious with Uncle Larry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's part of me, right, that would just naturally be curious with
Yeah.
Uncle Larry. That's BS. What are you talking about right now? But instead, it could be just kind of fun. It could be sporting to watch everyone else squirm, as I ask question after question, because that would happen if I did that. But I also might just be able to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, you might just
That's
be able to go
that's
get a piece of,
Larry.
yeah, you just go get a
Yeah,
piece of pie and it
yeah,
doesn't ruin your
yeah.
Christmas.
There goes Larry again,
Ah,
and
classic Larry.
I can be okay, right? And
Yeah.
boy, I think everybody wants to experience that when they're
Yeah.
stirred up.
Yeah. There was a time, can I tell a quick story?
Please.
There was a time a long time ago. It's been, I mean, it's probably been 10 years, but my wife and I would go to Thanksgiving to my wife's extended side of the family. And,
Hmm.
this is aunts, uncles, cousins, this is everybody. And there was a tradition where, what happens on Thanksgiving that guys typically like?
Football.
Football, yes. There was always a point where the guys would go into one single room, crammed in way too tight, watching the Lions play whoever they're playing, right?
Right?
And the women would go to another part of the room or another part of the house. And I think what's true is, I mean, you know me, like I'm not a football guy.
Yeah.
I'm also not like sometimes if I'm honest, like rooms full of like alpha male types just make me
Yeah.
want to squirm.
Yeah.
They just make me really uncomfortable. So I didn't want to be in the football room.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to draw a boundary and say I'm not going to go sit in the football room. So I just sit there just hating it, right?
Mm.
And that's not their fault. That's my fault.
No. Hmm.
So I look back on those moments and think, gosh, if I could take some responsibility and know how I wanted to be, how many
Yeah.
of those Thanksgivings could I have saved versus
Yeah.
sitting there just hating every moment of it?
Yeah. So how does that realization impact you over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks when you have opportunities to engage with family?
Yeah, how do Say that again.
Well, so you just realize something. Boy, like
Yes.
if I have agency, I can say and do and think and be the way I want to say and think and be in whatever space you find yourself. What, how will that impact
Yeah.
the coming days and weeks? What will
Yeah.
be different, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I think first it just feels so much more freeing.
Yeah.
The other way of being always felt like dread. Like,
Mm.
that football day is coming, or that I never said
Yeah.
it like that, but it was always like, this Thanksgiving thing's coming
Yeah.
again. So it feels much more freeing to be able to say, you know what, I don't have to be a victim to this.
Ah,
I
yes.
I get to I get to decide how I want to be. And there's probably a way to be in that setting. Like if I could transport myself back with what I know now, there is a
Hmm.
way to be on that day with that extended family that I don't dread. Right? There
Hmm.
is a way to be there that actually rings true with who I am and who I want to be.
Yeah.
So I think that feels really freeing. Um, I mean, I think it feels immensely challenging.
Mm.
I think there is a huge amount of challenge here to say, we're going to go into our families of origin and think and say and do and be, uh, authentic to our truest selves, because
Hmm.
oftentimes our families of origin just are still kind of in the status quo of what's been for us. So it
Yeah.
is
Right.
very challenging.
Yeah.
But I think again, it feels like agency. You've said it already multiple times. It feels like I don't have to be a victim to the event or the gathering or the moment. I get to decide a different way.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that that is like really, really important. And if it's true that every change changes everything, when you experience the low hum, so you use that phrase quite often when we think and talk about anxiety being present. And when you think about the low hum, and if every change changes everything, like that thing is going to be poked, right?
Yeah.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
So then, but in the midst of it, as you behave differently, uh, that might also like create vibration,
Yeah.
um, all of it, right? It's called changing the dance.
Yes. I'm
And
so glad you said that. I was going to make you say it, but now I want you to
ah,
keep going and say more about it.
oh well. So if you have always, so let's stick with football analogy. And when you don't go into that room, maybe you just go into the room with the women folk, or you just sit at the at the table and everybody else left, right? That changes the dance. Oh, where's Kurt? How come he's not in here? Uh, or what? Amber? How come Kurt is sitting here with us? Every system wants stasis. We want things to be exactly the way that they are supposed to be. The systems are all designed, they're getting what they're designed to get. And as soon as we change the dance, opportunity for everyone, for that low hum to be, maybe it's an acute threat for somebody all of a sudden. I think that there's just opportunities to put into practice everything that we teach and everything that we've learned.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge becomes increasingly significant because now everyone will be stirred up. Before it was
Yeah.
just you
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving football, right? You didn't want to be there, but everybody else was doing what they wanted to do. And so when we change the dance, there's opportunities to practice all
Yeah.
the things that
Yeah.
you will have heard us talk about over the course of the last year as Brimstone Coaching Group. And if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back into the archive and listen to some of these things
Yeah.
because we, inevitably, indubitably, our protective promises will be poked, and then
Yeah.
and then we get to decide what do we do.
Yeah. Indubitably.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
I
I'm
I had
trying to
a
remember the movie quote where it came from, and I can't, so I stopped.
I
Yeah.
had I had one of my teenage kids tell me today, after I used a word in of equal size and syllable count as that one, they said,
Hmm.
"That's premium English. I don't pay for premium English. Use regular English," which I thought was really funny.
That
So
is funny. I love it.
yeah, premium. I don't pay for premium. Uh, so
Uh,
I love this change to the dance. You taught me this years ago, and I love it. I use it all the time. Um, do you know the YouTube, like have you seen the YouTube video, shirtless man dancing? Have you seen this?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think if you type those words in YouTube, you'll find it, but it'll have millions of views. It's a guy at a concert, no shirt on. He's dancing,
Oh, yeah,
doing,
yeah.
and slowly everybody just joins him, right?
Yep.
And nobody has any idea what they're doing. But
Hmm.
just throngs
Yeah.
of people from this one guy just doing this really weird dance all by himself, and people
Yeah.
just begin to start doing it with him. Um, I also, I mean, you're absolutely right. The opportunity for anxiety goes up immensely, and we should know that. We should expect that.
Hmm.
If I go sit with the women in that example, that's going to make some people anxious. I'm in both rooms and me. Um, and I think what the hope would be, the hope in this work is that then that also might invite others to think about the same thing. Um, I'm certain, well, let me back up. I might rather talk about doilies than sit in a room with a bunch of dudes watching
Sure.
football. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I get it.
might actually be real.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's okay. That's
I'm
great.
certain, yeah, and I'm certain I'm not the only one. And I'm equally certain there are women in that group that would much rather sit in that room and watch football.
Yeah. Right. Can I
Um,
go watch football? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
love that. So here, I mean, can I say something about
yeah.
you brought up that shirtless dancing guy. And
Hmm.
the thing about it is it's really not, I mean, that analogy is it's more about the first follower
Yeah.
than
Yep.
it is about him,
Yeah.
right? And so he behaved in a different way. He's on a hillside, there's this concert happening, and he starts dancing when everybody else is just sitting there.
Yeah.
And when he changed the dance for people, somebody else responded and they started dancing too. And that's really when things
Yeah.
started to happen. So here's your
Yeah.
invitation and challenge, friends, is like understand where you're poked and prodded or how you want to be, and then have the courage to change the dance.
Yeah.
And somebody might follow, and they might break the norm too, or behave a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And then like watch the ripple uh, effect of of you, I think, behaving the way you want to
Yeah.
this holiday season, if it's at home, if it's uh, at your company Christmas party, wherever it is. I mean, there's opportunity to do this wherever you find yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. I don't think I want to say anything else. I love the invitation. I might add to the invitation if you listener find yourself not sure how to do that work,
Mm.
or come out of Christmas feeling stirred up and unsure how to get back to safety,
Yeah.
get back to
Yep.
not being stirred up. We would love to help you walk through that journey of getting back to where you're not stirred up. Or
Yeah.
we'd love to help you walk into a holiday season. So we want to invite you into a free initial coaching call. This is work that we can do with you over the course of time, or even in prep for the season. And the way to find that free initial coaching call is to go to brimstonecoachinggroup.com, and there are multiple buttons on that homepage that say click here for your free inquiry call. We would love to just be curious with you, Chris or I, about how we might be able to journey with you to a life that is more contented, more fulfilled, and more whole.
Yeah, that's really great. We do have a few slots still open. You have 2 weeks to like to work through something to have an idea about how you want to behave and show up. So yeah, we'd love to have that conversation.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation today, Chris. It's always good to be together.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, Kurt.